Okay, third time lucky. Woo woo. Is autism on the rise? Are we seeing increased rates of autism? Stick around to find out. What's really interesting is that the rate of autism that we're seeing is actually increasing over time. It's definitely becoming more prevalent, so definitely in the literature as well. And this is due to a number of factors. Things like we are investing more research into autism and also from autistic researchers. There's definitely more understanding even from 10 or 20 or 30 years ago, more understanding of autism, and also more celebrities now, people in the spotlight. They're being diagnosed as autistic with autism, and they're sharing their experiences, which is so great, as well as people on YouTube like myself. So celebrities like Elon Musk, Hannah Gadsby, Chloe Hayden, Courtney Love, Daryl Hannah, Susan Boyle, Anthony Hopkins, Grace Tame, Wentworth Miller, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, like the list goes on. Another factor is also adults like myself. This is my experience. When their child gets diagnosed, as a parent, you have to go through the autistic criteria and think about your child's behaviour, because it's a neurodevelopmental difference or neurotype, so there's no genetic testing. It's all based on behaviour, that parents are then going, well, actually, like, I'm starting to relate to these autistic traits too. There's also more awareness in the community now, thanks to things like Autism Awareness Week, Autism Awareness Month. Also, I think the parents are beginning to understand, and if you don't know this, we do know that autism is highly genetic. So if one of your children or child is diagnosed as autistic with autism, then really it's come from one parent, or it's definitely come from down the line. So something to consider if your child has been recently diagnosed. So when I talk about prevalence, what does prevalence mean? So prevalence in autism is actually those individuals that have been diagnosed as autistic. So it doesn't actually count for those that are self-diagnosed. So you think about the hundreds, thousands of people that are self-diagnosed as autistic for whatever reason. This could be to do financially, or maybe they can't access someone to receive a diagnosis. These autistic individuals aren't being included in the prevalence rate, so I'm sure it's actually much higher than what is being recorded in the literature. Things like prevalence also does vary across countries and culture, so you must remember that different cultures have different beliefs in terms of behaviour. So autistic behaviour might be seen as being different compared to countries like the UK, Australia, America, and with that comes the fact that I do believe we need more culturally sensitive screening and assessment tools for autism. And we also need an increase in clinician awareness of autism, especially in adults. So don't assume that when you go to a GP or you go to a psychiatrist, a psychologist, don't assume that they understand how autism is, especially in adults and especially in women. Do your research, look at the criteria, which I'll talk about in a minute, and really do the quizzes online, and I'll link things like quizzes below in the description, and definitely do your research before you go to see a GP or a clinician. Don't ever assume that they will know, because I'm still hearing things like, being told that, an autistic woman or autistic adult isn't autistic because they have eye contact, or, all based on all these stereotypes. So I just wanted to mention briefly about the DSM criteria. And what's really interesting is that autism came into the DSM, which is the criteria that they diagnose you as being autistic on. It came in 1980, and that's still so recent, and it was actually termed infantile autism. And previous to that, autism hasn't had a very nice history. It was also thought that autistic children in particular were institutionalized. They were thought to have like schizophrenia, and it's just a horrible dark past. So in 1980 it came in as infantile autism, and it was actually considered really rare. So we're talking like 3 in 10,000 children. And then, so that was the prevalent rate. And then the DSM-3 was revised to autistic disorder in 1987. And then in 1994, it came Asperger syndrome, or Asperger's came into the DSM in 1994. And Asperger's is also referred to as high-functioning autism, but we don't actually use these terms anymore. It just basically means an autistic person without an intellectual disability. And then the DSM-5, which is what we refer to now, came in 2013, and a lot of the terms were all rolled into one, basically. What we know now as autism spectrum, hate to say that word, disorder. We know it's not a disorder. I'm just referring to the medical model as per diagnosis. And then it was revised in 2022 last year, and that's just slightly to do with some of the wording. So there you go. So we are seeing an increased rate of autism diagnosis and prevalence, and most of it is to do with the fact that in society we are becoming more aware, more celebrities, more autistic people like myself, you know, we're sharing our experiences and we're talking about it, but we still need so much more to go. And then of course we can't forget that although they haven't found a gene for autism, we don't know that there's lots of genes involved, but it's more about keep coming with raising the awareness, keep watching autistic YouTubers, autistic individuals on Facebook, you know, like myself, talking about our experiences and raising that awareness. So thank you. Hope you have a nice day, and please check out my other videos as well on autism, ADHD, and a lot of others coming up real soon.